I was born to be a winner, then I'ma grow up to be a go-getter. Blood, sweat, and tears written in the blacks and kings. 1 in a million, the billions, a half percent.
Hello folks, welcome back to Grill the Grandstand. Will Buxton with you again, this time for the last quiz before we get back to racing in Austria. As always, follow the link at the bottom of the video if you want to follow along on f1.com and enter your answers online, or alternatively, if you want to answer with a piece of paper and a pen, I'll give you the answers at the end of the quiz. Are you all ready and raring to go? Excellent. Round 1 is back-to-back wins. Question 1, and it's one from very recent history. Should be a pretty easy one to start. Where did Charles Leclerc get his first back-to-back wins in 2019? We want 2 answers here, the 2 circuits at which he got his back-to-back victories in 2019 from this list. A, Austria. B, Germany. C, Hungary. D, Belgium. E, Italy. F, Singapore. So from a very recent back-to-back winner, all the way back to the start of the Formula 1 World Championship for question number 2. Which driver was the first to score back-to-back victories in the Formula 1 World Championship? Was it A, Nino Farina? B, Alberto Ascari? C, Juan Manuel Fangio? Was it D, Jose Froilan Gonzalez? E, Sterling Moss? Or F, Mike Hawthorne? Here's 5 British Formula 1 stars, 4 of whom won their first 2 races back-to-back. It's quite a record. We want to know which of these drivers didn't score their first 2 wins in Formula 1 back-to-back. Okay, the odd one out. Was it A, Peter Collins? B, Jim Clark? C, Nigel Mansell? D, Damon Hill? Or E, Lewis Hamilton? Big span of time there in question 3, but is your memory better for the history of the sport or the more recent stuff? On to question 4. Who stormed to World Drivers' Championship victory by winning every race after the summer break? Not going to give you a year. Was it A, Michael Schumacher? Was it B, Jacques Villeneuve? C, Fernando Alonso? D, Jenson Button? E, Sebastian Vettel? Or F, Lewis Hamilton? Tricky one. Gonna have to figure out the year and then the driver that won the World Championship, having taken victory in every single race after the summer break. Got an answer down? Excellent, then let's go back to 1987 for question number 5. Only one race winner in 1987 didn't score back-to-back victories that season. But who was it? A, Alain Prost. B, Ayrton Senna. C, Gerhard Berger. D, Nelson Piquet. Or E, Nigel Mansell. A 16-race championship that year. All 5 of those guys were race winners, but only one of them didn't achieve back-to-back race wins. What a season. Okay, on to a more recent season with 5 different race winners for our final question of round 1. In the 2010 F1 season, there were 5 race winners, but how many of them won back-to-back races? Is it A, 1, B, 2, C, 3, D, 4, or E, all 5 of them? Brilliant season that went all the way down to the wire in Abu Dhabi, the championship being contested between 4 of the 5 drivers. But how many back-to-back winners were there amongst those 5? Okay, got your answers down, lock them in, and get ready for round number 2, Radio Gaga.
What the f*** did he do?
Okay, your first video then, Valtteri Bottas in Russia, a track which he loves. But who is the he in the radio transmission from 2015? Is it A, Felipe Massa? B, Jenson Button? C, Kimi Räikkönen? D, Max Verstappen? E, Pastor Maldonado? Or F, Roman Grosjean? Minimal talking there from the disappointed Finn. On to question 2. Whose radio have we used for this martial arts grandma in our F1 animated series? Is it A, Daniel Ricciardo, B, Lewis Hamilton, C, Lando Norris, D, Max Verstappen, E, Sebastian Vettel, or F, Lance Stroll? Hard to hear it as team radio after that animation. On to question number 3. The dulcet tones there of Fernando Alonso with his, shall we say, unique take on Queen's famous song. But at which race did he sing We Are the Champions? Was it A, China 2005, B, Japan 2005, or C, Brazil 2005? How about D, China 2006, E, Japan 2006, or F, Brazil 2006? For question 4, this was number 1 in our top 10 Kimi Räikkönen radio moments, but which 2 words have we cut from the end of this classic Iceman radio from Abu Dhabi 2012?
Okay, Kimi, next car behind you is Alonso. I'll keep you updated on the gap. I'll keep you updated on the pace.
Just leave me alone, I know what...
A well-loved and often repeated bit of team radio. However, more often than not, it's misquoted. We're looking for the 2 words that are missing from this piece of Kimi radio in Abu Dhabi 2012. Right, think you've got those 2 words? Lock them in, and on to question number 5.
Carlos, check the radio. We seem to have picked up some dodgy music channel again.
The question then, what song is picked up on Carlos Sainz's dodgy music channel, according to his engineer Tom Stallard over the radio? Is it A, Stop It by Fisher, B, the F1 theme tune? Is it C, At Last by Etta James? Is it D, Smooth by Santana, E, Another One Bites the Dust by Queen, or F, Smooth Operator by Sade? Big things coming for the young Spaniard next year then, as he moves up to Ferrari alongside Charles Leclerc. I was lucky enough to talk to him about that move and how the contract came about shortly after it was announced. You can re-watch that interview now on f1.com and YouTube. For now though, final question in the Radio Gaga round. And it's another missing word.
I need to wait until everybody crosses the line. I need to wait. But it's looking good. You just wait. You just wait.
So, what word have we taken out of Sebastian Vettel's team radio after he crossed the line and waited to hear whether he'd won his first World Championship in 2010? Was it A, Sebastian, B, Tiger, C, Sunshine, D, Champ, E, Boy, or F, Weltmeister? Okay, pens down and let's move on. Our next round is all about street races, something we're not going to see much of in 2020, with recent news, unfortunately, that both Singapore and Baku have joined Monaco as street races that won't, unfortunately, go ahead this year. We'll be hoping they'll be back very soon, though. Great races, great events, which we love going to. In the meantime, though, it's time to challenge your knowledge of history with the round we're calling Street Smarts. Easy one to get you going for question 1. Which city was supposed to host its inaugural Grand Prix on April the 5th, 2020, before the coronavirus outbreak intervened? Was it A, Miami, B, Hanoi, C, Amsterdam, D, Marseille, E, London, or F, Tokyo? There you go, told you it was an easy one to start. On to question number 2 then. With 5 wins to his name, which F1 driver had the nickname Mr. Monaco? A, Ayrton Senna, B, Graham Hill, C, Sterling Moss, D, Jackie Stewart, E, Lewis Hamilton, or F, Michael Schumacher? All multiple winners around the streets of Monte Carlo, but only one of them was referred to as Mr. Monaco? Question number 3. It's not considered a street circuit, so probably shouldn't be in this round. Anyway, which currently used track contains former public roads, but was made a permanent circuit in 2000? Was it A, Spa-Francorchamps, B, Monza, C, Suzuka, D, Silverstone, E, Albert Park, or F, Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya? Question number 4, and back to questions about proper street circuits. A Grand Prix held on a street circuit in which US city was the F1 season opener in both 1990 and 1991? Is it A, Phoenix, B, Dallas, C, Las Vegas, D, Long Beach, E, Riverside, or F, Austin? You may recall the 1990 event in which Jean Alesi in his Ford-powered Tyrrell somehow managed to hold behind the might of Ayrton Senna in his McLaren Honda. Brilliant race in which Jean Alesi truly announced his arrival in Formula 1, and you can hear more from Jean Alesi on F1's Beyond the Grid podcast with Tom Clarkson. All episodes, of course, having been archived, and you can listen back to them at your leisure. Speaking of Senna, take a look at this masterful control in Monaco in 1988. Often referred to as one of, if not the greatest qualifying lap of all time, how much faster than his McLaren teammate Alain Prost did Ayrton Senna qualify at the 1988 Monaco Grand Prix? Okay, the nearest tenth of a second. Was it 0.1, 0.5, 0.8? Was it 1 second, 1.4 seconds, or 1.7 seconds? The answer, if you know it, is pretty astonishing. Regardless then of the gap and the majesty of that particular lap, with the McLarens lining up P1 and P2 on the grid, it was Alain Prost who won the race after Senna's infamous crash down at Portier Corner. But what was that gap in qualifying? Last Street Smarts question now. Which city hosted the 1958 and 1960 Portuguese Grand Prix on its streets? Was it A, Estoril, B, Evora, C, Lisbon, D, Macau, E, Monsanto, or F, Porto? Okay, you're going to have to go back 6 decades to draw out the answer to this. Jack Brabham, of course, sealing the 1960 World Championship title at this circuit, taking his 5th consecutive win. Does that help you at all? Or just confuse the matter further? Okay, last chance to get your answers in for your last question in this round before we move on to our next round. And for those of you who prefer a more visual clue, this one's right up your street. It's called I in Teams. Get it? Oh, like an I in... There's no I in... I in Teams. There's no I in team, but there's an M and an E. We've got 6 videos to watch. Correctly identify the team shown in each, and you'll get top points. Here is the first clip. What is the name of the team seen working on this car? Is it A, Benetton, B, Arrows, C, Jordan, D, Coloni, E, Minardi, or F, 40? This is footage from the 1990s. Can you guess the team from the colours that you see? Perhaps the sponsors. Okay, on to question 2. Question 2 then is another one from the 1990s. This one though from the late 90s. Which team does this car belong to? Seen driving around Magny-Cours. Is it A, Simtech, B. Ligier, C. Williams, D. Tyrrell, E. Benetton, or F. Prost? A few teams in that list who famously sported a blue livery, but which one is it? Right, on to question number 3. Which team's car is leaving the pits here? Is it A. Tyrrell, B. AGS, C. Footwork, D. Arrows, E. Zaxpeed, or F. Spirit? This is the turbocharged era in the 1980s. Easy if you know it, perhaps a little bit more of a tricky one if that's not your era. Question number 4, and it's another yellow car. Tell us which team is racing towards camera in this shot. A. AGS, B. Renault, C. Fittipaldi, D. Wolf, E. March, or F. McLaren? Got it? Even if you're not sure, I reckon you could take a pretty decent guess on that one. Okay, on to question number 5. Which well-known Formula 1 team is in this footage? Is it A. Minardi, B. Alfa Romeo, C. Brabham, D. Lotus, E. Jaguar, or F. March? Very smart. Green, white and red livery, but which team is it? Question number 6. Which team sported this livery in 2007? Was it A. Toro Rosso, B. BAR, C. Williams, D. Sauber, E. Red Bull, or F. Honda? No sponsor names at all then on that car, just a web address on the rear wing. Even for the time, quite an unusual livery. You can see that and 9 other unusual liveries in our top 10 unusual liveries countdown, which you can still watch on f1.com and F1's YouTube channel. Okay, so for those of you who didn't quite love the visual rounds, maybe this one will be more to your liking. Round 5 is called Where in the World? 5 questions in this round, 5 points up for grabs, but there will be no multiple choice. We will ask a question or show you some footage, and all you have to do is tell us where in the world it is. Pretty simple, right? On to question 1. In what country is Kimi Räikkönen lost on this service road? Easy one to start. The Iceman, too cool to do a circuit walk before his 2012 race, finding a dead end instead of an exit back onto the circuit. To be fair though, he had taken that route once before and the gate was open, so thought he could do it again in 2012. Simply write the name of the country for your answer. Question number 2. Which circuit has hosted the most Formula 1 World Championship events? Just the one word name that we know this circuit by. Not country, circuit. Which circuit? Doesn't have to be the really long flowery name, just the one word that we know the circuit by. Okay? Which circuit has hosted the most rounds of the Formula 1 World Championship? Question number 3. Where in the world did Piquet and Salazar have this famous scrap after colliding at the chicane? So that's where in the world. And by that we mean country, not circuit. If you're playing with our interactive scorecard, we're looking for one word, and it's the country where handbags at dawn occurred between Mr. Piquet and Mr. Salazar. Question number 4. In which city did this tyre explosion end Nigel Mansell's championship chances? Which city? It also effectively ended his teammates' chances as well, because following Mansell's failure, Williams brought Piquet in for a precautionary tyre change. So just to make things really simple, we're now not looking for a circuit or a country, we're looking for a city. Final question now. Which team garage is Michael Schumacher heading for in this iconic moment. Wow, we've been loose with the determination of what where in the world means. So not the country, not the city, not even the circuit, but where in the paddock is Michael... This is loose. Where in the paddock is Michael heading? For the interactive scorecard, if you're still following along and can understand what on earth is going on, you'll need the single word name for the team he's heading for. I didn't write them. Okay, finalise those answers. Just one round to go. Round 6 is unexpected winners. Question number 1. Who slipped past Kimi Räikkönen when he went wide to take the eventual victory in the shortened 2003 Brazilian Grand Prix? Was it A. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, B. Giancarlo Fisichella, C. Damon Hill, D. Ralph Furman, E. Ralph Schumacher, or F. Jean Alesi? Carnage in that race, which occurred much earlier in the season than the Brazilian Grand Prix does nowadays. The event ultimately was stopped after Fernando Alonso hit debris from Mark Webber's shunt at the top of the hill coming out of Junção and onto the start-finish straight. The race results had to be taken from the lap before. Much confusion, a swapping of trophies at the next race. So yes, the driver that ended up standing on the top step of the podium in Brazil didn't actually win the race. Who did? That's the question. Time for question number 2. In McLaren's dominant 1988 season, Gerhard Berger took unexpected victory for Ferrari in front of the Tifosi after race leader Senna tangled with which backmarker? Was it A. Andrea de Cesaris, B. René Arnoux, C. Ivan Capelli, D. Alessandro Nannini, E. Riccardo Patrese, or F. Jean-Louis Schlesser? Gerhard told Tom Clarkson all about that famous weekend in Monza on the Beyond the Grid podcast. Famous, of course, Enzo Ferrari had so recently died. It was an incredible weekend for the Tifosi in Monza to see Gerhard win there. You can catch up on all of Tom's podcasts, of course, right here on YouTube. Our next unexpected winner is Olivier Panis, who won in Monaco in 1996. But what was the name of the team he drove for? No full names, no engines in your answer, just the name of the team. Doesn't have to have sponsors and all that. Just one word we're looking for. The name of the team for which Olivier Panis was driving when he took an unexpected victory in 1996 in Monaco. Question number 4. In the changing conditions of the 1999 European Grand Prix, trouble struck each one of the drivers you're now seeing, starving each one of a potential victory. But who came through the madness for an unexpected win? Was it A. Olivier Panis, B. Giancarlo Fisichella, C. Johnny Herbert, D. Pedro de la Rosa, E. Rubens Barrichello, or F. Jacques Villeneuve? Just over 20 years ago, makes some of us feel very old, but maybe you saw our replay or the highlights just last month, and this thrilling race is still fresh in your mind. Moving on now, just 2 questions to go, and we start with an upset from the 1970s for question number 5. Who beat Niki Lauda to win at Lauda's home race in 1977 from an astonishing 14th on the grid to claim the only win for this team in Formula 1? Was it A. John Watson? Was it B. Vittorio Brambilla? Was it C. Clay Regazzoni? D. Alan Jones? E. Jean-Pierre Jarier? Or F. Riccardo Patrese? Lauda was second, 20 seconds behind the leader, and wouldn't manage to secure a victory at home until 1984. But this race, a famous victory, the only victory for this team in 1977, who took the race win? Okay, final question. Pastor Maldonado was an unexpected winner at Spain in 2012, taking Williams' first win since 2004. But What unusual event occurred on that Sunday? Is it A, Vettel colliding with a back marker on the cooldown lap? B, a fire breaking out in the Williams garage? C, unfamiliar with victory proceedings, Maldonado parked up in the wrong place and had to run to the podium? D, a backup bottle of champagne had to be brought out when the cork wouldn't come out? E, a 10-minute delay because the Venezuelan national anthem wasn't prepared in time for the podium ceremony? Or F, his rear tyre delaminated, forcing him to drive to Parc Fermé with a flapping tyre? Pastor had started the race from P1 after Lewis Hamilton's pole time was excluded, so a win from pole might not ordinarily sound that unexpected. But considering that Williams finished 8th in that year's Constructors' Championship and didn't achieve another podium all season, it was certainly a surprise win. Okay, while you're finishing up, let's see what this week's bonus question will be. Right, bonus round once again, not for points, just for pride, a little bit of fun for you. Name as many drivers as you can to have won a round of the Formula One World Championship aged under 25. Okay, under 25, so that's up to 24 and 364 days old. We count 18. Doesn't count for points, as we said, just a bit of fun, and we'll be posting the answers in the YouTube community over the coming days. Big bragging rights if you can get 12 or more without Googling. Now, if you played along last week for the bonus round, we wanted to know how many circuits have hosted more than 20 Grand Prix as of the end of the 2019 season, and these are the answers that you could have had. In order of number of Grand Prix held, it is Watkins Glen, Mexico City, Kyalami, Buenos Aires, Albert Park in Melbourne, Imola, Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, Zandvoort, Suzuka, Hungaroring, Spielberg. So you could have had it known as Red Bull Ring, A1, Oostenrijk. They all count as one answer. Interlagos, Hockenheim, Nürburgring, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Spa-Francorchamps, Silverstone, Monte Carlo, and Monza. Okay, 19 correct answers there. 15 or more is an impeccable showing, let's say. Okay, that's the bonus round done. Let's get on to the answers for this week's questions. Okay, round one, question one, and it's got to be said, not too much of a difficult one to start with. Charles Leclerc opened his win account with back-to-back victories in 2019. Which circuits were they at? They were, of course, coming straight out of the summer break, Belgium and Italy. So answers D and E. On to question two. The first driver to score back-to-back Grand Prix wins in the Formula One World Championship was C, Juan Manuel Fangio. Question three. The answer was B, Jim Clark, the only British driver who didn't win his first 2 Grand Prix back-to-back. Peter Collins, Nigel Mansell, Damon Hill and Lewis Hamilton all followed up their first Formula One victory with victory at the very next race. Incredible record. Question 4. Who won every race after the summer break to take the driver's title? Tricky question, this one. You had to figure out not just the driver but the year to really get it nailed in as to who it was. Those of you who remembered back to 2013 will know that the answer was E, Sebastian Vettel. But such was the run of success of all the other drivers in that, you could easily have got it wrong with any of the others, such as Michael at the height of his powers in the 2000s. Could easily have won every one of those races in the 02-03 season, but it was Sebastian Vettel who did it. Question 5. Only one race winner in 1987 didn't score back-to-back wins, and it's probably not the driver that you're thinking. It was, incredibly, Alain Prost. A, Alain Prost. Question 6 in back-to-back wins. Out of the 5 2010 race winners, how many won back-to-back races that season? The answer was 4. Webber, Hamilton, Alonso and Vettel. It's a little bit trickier this week, isn't it? How did you do with round 1? On to round 2 now, and Radio Gaga. Okay, round 2, question number 1. Who was Valtteri talking about in that piece of radio? It was Kimi Räikkönen. Answer C, after this very late lunge in Russia 2015. Question 2, the martial arts grandma was E. Sebastian Vettel, his radio from Bahrain in 2018. Round 2, question 3, Fernando Alonso, absolutely killing We Are the Champions, was from his radio in, it was China, but was it 05 or 06? The correct answer was A, China 2005. Question number 4. Leave me alone. I know what blank blank. Can you remember our number 1 Kimi Räikkönen radio moment? Did you get it right?
Okay, Kimi, next car behind you is Alonso. I'll keep you updated on the gap. I'll keep you updated on the pace.
Just leave me alone, I know what to do.
I know what to do. Those were the words you needed to get your point, often misquoted as I know what I'm doing. Those were not the words from Abu Dhabi. It's I know what to do. Question 5. Tom Stallard, Carlos Sainz's race engineer, says he's picking up a dodgy radio station when he hears Carlos singing which song? The answer was, of course, F, Smooth Operator by Sade. Question 6. The missing word from Sebastian Vettel's radio just before he's announced as the 2010 world champion was...
I need to wait until everybody crosses the line. I need to wait, but it's looking good. You just wait, sunshine. You just wait.
Sunshine, of course, was the missing word. If you put C, well done. Correct answer. Okay, on to Street Smarts now. Round 3. And question number 1. Again, an easy one to lull you into a false sense of security. The correct answer of the city which would have hosted its inaugural round of the Formula 1 World Championship in April this year was B, Hanoi. And hopefully we'll get to race there very soon. Track looks great fun. Okay, on to question 2. Who was dubbed Mr. Monaco after his 5 wins around the Principality? Some of you I know might have said Ayrton Senna. It wasn't. It was, of course, B, Graham Hill. 5-time winner around the streets of Monte Carlo. Question 3. Made a permanent circuit in 2000. It was A, Spa-Francorchamps. That is a track composed mostly of public roads. Question number 4. The opening round of the 1990 and 1991 F1 calendars and the site of that famous battle between Jean Alesi and Ayrton Senna was, of course, answer A again, Phoenix, Arizona. On then to that dominant year for McLaren in 1988 and Ayrton Senna putting in quite possibly one of the greatest pole position laps that you will ever see in Formula 1. The gap back to his teammate, Alain Prost, in P2 in qualifying was a whopping 1.4 seconds. Same car, same engine, same track, 1.4 seconds, P1 to P2. Astonishing. So that was E, the correct answer for that question. Question 6, and the last Street Smarts question. The 1958 and 1960 Portuguese Grand Prix were held where? The clue was, of course, it was where Jack Brabham sealed his second championship on a run of 5 back-to-back wins. And it was the city of Porto. Answer F. Right, let's see how many teams you recognised in Iron Teams. Round 4. Okay, question number 1, and this was actually as recently as 1997. And it is answer E, Minardi, still running their traditional black, white and yellow scheme. Question 2. This blue car is at its home Grand Prix in France, and the team's name comes from its 4-time Formula 1 World Champion owner. It is, of course, Prost. F. Question 3. A team that had been around a while, long enough to secure number 3 and 4 as race numbers, but we're more familiar with them in the blue livery of the 60s and 70s. It is Tyrrell, answer A. Question 4. Speaking of the 70s, this is, of course, Renault, answer B. Question 5. The green, white and red car was not, incredibly, a famous Italian team. The green, however, is relevant. It's the traditional British racing green of Lotus. That's answer D. Question 6. The infamous Earth Dreams livery, sported in 2007, was on the Honda. F was the right answer. So how did you do? Did you know every one of those, or not so good with the visual clues? On now to a round which should theoretically have been very easy. The concept was simple. Where in the world? As you know though, answers could have been anything. Here's round 5. Kimi's excellent adventure up this service road and then back again was in, of course, Brazil. That's right, the answer there. We wanted the country. Brazil. Question 2. This time we wanted a circuit. And the circuit was Monza. It has hosted the most F1 World Championship races in the sport's 70-year history. So we wanted the circuit there. The circuit was Monza. You didn't need the whole Autodromo Nazionale. Question 3. Piquet pulled his handbag out and slapped Eliseo Salazar with it in Germany in 1982. Yes, that time we wanted a country again. Question number 4. This time we wanted the city, but you could have, it could have been we could have just said the circuit because it's got the same name. Nigel Mansell's 1986 championship hopes were over after this tyre failure in Adelaide, of course, the final round of the season. Question 5, last one for the round, and not looking for a city or a country or a circuit. Michael Schumacher looks like he wants to take a leaf out of Piquet's book here and go and lamp someone in Belgium in 1998. He, of course, wanted a piece of David Coulthard after the two of them had come together on track. Michael believing that David had slowed intentionally to cause the impact. So where was Michael headed? He was headed to McLaren. That's where he was off to. A very random set of answers there for a round which theoretically should have been really simple. Did you get them all right, despite the confusion? Hope so. On now then to the final round. This opportunistic move on Kimi Räikkönen earned Giancarlo Fisichella the win in Brazil 2003, although he didn't get his trophy until the next round in Imola. Räikkönen, of course, stood at the top step of the podium, but following an appeal by Jordan, Fisichella was calculated to have been in the lead of the race when the result was declared, giving Jordan their final F1 victory in their 200th race, albeit with the car in flames in the pit lane. So, yeah. Question number 2. The famous Ferrari 1-2 in Monza 1988, the only race not to have been won by either McLaren that season, came after Senna collided with F. Jean-Louis Schlesser. Question 3. No multiple choice here. You needed to tell us, who was Olivier Panis driving for when he scored victory in Monaco in 1996? And if you answered Prost, then you were wrong. It was Ligier that was the correct answer. Easy to get the two mixed up, of course. Prost inherited the Ligier entry. The car liveries look very, very similar, but back in 1996 it was, of course, still Ligier for whom Panis scored that famous win in Monaco. On now to the 1999 European Grand Prix held at the Nürburgring and an unlikely victory for the Stewart team. But was it in the hands of Johnny Herbert or Rubens Barrichello? The answer was C, Johnny Herbert. Teammate Barrichello, of course, was third. Joining them both on the podium was team founder Jackie Stewart. Who beat Niki Lauda to victory in Austria in 1977, the only race victory for the Shadow team in Formula One? And if you answered that it was future world champion Alan Jones, D, then you were correct. He took the win by 20 seconds. Final question now. Pastor Maldonado's one and only win in Formula One and the last Grand Prix victory for Williams came at the 2012 Spanish Grand Prix. But what bizarre event occurred that Sunday? Post-race, of course, the answer was B, a fire in the Williams garage. Pastor actually went back to the garage during the fire to help his cousin escape with a broken foot. What a legend. Okay, toss up those scores and see how you did. Let us know in the comments below. Be it good or bad, I've got to say I think this week's quiz was probably the toughest one so far. You can, of course, keep up with your F1 history, listen and watch interviews with the greats, and watch old races once again on Formula1.com and, of course, on F1 TV. And with the 2020 season about to get underway, those are the two places that you can keep up to date with all of the latest as we get back to racing. I'll be taking a break from quizzing for the next few weeks as we get back into proper racing once again, but thank you so much for playing along, and hopefully we'll see you very soon.
If I was born to be a winner, then I'ma grow up to be a go-getter. Blood, sweat, and tears written in the blacks of kings. 1 in a million, the billions that have to sing.